What's up, friends and followers? Nate with Lakeview Home Improvement. We are on site here at Heartland Hardwood Flooring in West Knoxville, and I've got the owner, Kevin, and we're gonna kind of go through a quick interview and just learn more about hardwood products and what makes the best products that are out there. Talk about the supply chain concerns in the marketplace and where the technology is going in hardwood surfaces. I think it's gonna be pretty exciting, so follow us along here and let us know if you gain any knowledge from this video.
My name's Kevin Daniel. I own Heartland Hardwood Flooring. We're at 115 Hayfield Road in West Knoxville. Hayfield's a little short road that runs between Kingston Pike and Parkside Drive. We're here 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. And if you're interested in a wood floor and you want to talk to someone who really knows what they're talking about, I'd be happy to talk to you. HeartlandHardwoodFlooring.com is the website. There's some stuff to look at in there. There's a little contact button there. If you want to send me an email, I'd be happy to talk to you that way as well. I'm a second generation hardwood floorman. I grew up in a manufacturing plant. Actually, our family owned and operated a mill that made unfinished wood floors that are, made to be finished on site. When I was in college, my dad sold the mill to these folks right here, actually Mullican Flooring, and then I had to find another avenue, because growing up I always thought I was going to work at the flooring mill. But, since that wasn't available, I actually went to work for one of our customers that was a distributor that we sold material to in Maryville here at the time. Then I worked for another company for 5 or 6 years. The owner was retiring and he sold the company to another outfit from out of state. At that time, I went out and rented a building and started my own thing here, and that's been about 16, 17 years ago now.
You've grown quite a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I started out, it was just me and just one suite, and now I've got 2 suites and 3 or 4 people that work for us full time. We're exclusively wood flooring, we don't sell any other type of floor coverings. Hardwood is definitely our niche, it's something that I know very well. All types, from the solid traditional wood floors that are finished on site to your factory finished products, whether they be solid or engineered, or even the new vinyl plank floors that a lot of people are choosing today. We sell all of those. I've got a real strong technical background. I've spent a lot of time training, going to schools and further educating myself to be able to answer any question that, someone would possibly have. I can remember early on when I first got into the business, I went out on a complaint and I was very young and it didn't go very well. And and so I made it a mission to educate myself after that point, because I did not want to get in the situation again where I felt like I didn't know what I was talking about. And so it's something that I've really, when I got in the flooring business was like, when the internet was just kind of starting, so it was hard to find information. You really had to go out and look for it. And now it's a little easier to find info about wood flooring on the web. But at the time, you really had to dig. And I was able to network with some folks around the country that I still communicate with about flooring projects and manufacturers, brands, just business in general, which has helped. Most solid wood floors are still made here domestically, and so the supply chain on them is a little different issue than what we're seeing from a lot of the imported wood floors that we have coming in the States. Most of your engineered wood floors are imported. Not all of them, of course, but the lion's share of them is definitely imported from overseas. And the last 2 years have been a real struggle. At first, we didn't know what was going on and how to handle it, and so we flew by the seat of our pants, really, and just dealt with it. But now, we're starting to figure it out a little bit. We're knowing when to stay away from certain products and when to go after them or not, if they're viable. If somebody tells me it's 2 months from now before it's ever even going to be produced, then we're probably looking at something else. But there for a long time, we could pretty much get anything in the store within a week, and that's not the case anymore. But we're not seeing many lead times outside of, the longest ones I'm seeing right now is about 8 weeks, more custom made stuff. So it's getting a little better. It's still a little hit or miss on, certain key items. And it's weird because what'll happen is you'll have a component that's missing that they can't obtain to finish whatever they're making. And so it's figuring out all those little inconsistencies and figuring out what it takes to make it work.
The supply and demand is going right in line with our housing market.
Yes, yeah, it's a little unique what we got going on right now compared to what we had in the last big building boom, We had a very similar situation in 08. In '07, I mean, building was just screaming. And then it came to a screeching halt. But the reason that was so bad was different, I think, than what's going on now. You know, back then they were giving a lot of loans out to people that didn't necessarily have the money. Whereas now, what's going on here in Knoxville is the complete opposite. You have people with cash in hand moving to the area and competing in the market very heavily. We've had a great influx of people in the last 2 years from out of state moving to Tennessee. We do a lot with general contractors and builders and folks in the trade. I mean, generally because those are folks that are actively buying products and they're not just shopping and dreaming. They're working on a project and are actively buying things. And when you deal with folks in the trade, it's a little easier to sell the products because they understand a little bit. You don't have to give them a complete education from ground up, you know. But I don't care to do that. You know, that's one thing too, is that a lot of builders and contractors will just send folks over here because we do take the time to listen to them, their concerns, their needs, and their wants, and try to find a solution that fits. You know, everybody has a budget. Everybody hates to talk about budget, but I mean, it's really kind of necessary if you want the best value for your money. And it cuts out a lot of, you know, showing you things that aren't really gonna work if we know from the beginning what you're looking to do. I mean, everybody's different. We've got stuff from very affordable to very high end, and there's something for everybody. The industry is leaning real hard right now to engineered wood floors. There's a few things that are driving that. Engineered wood floors, of course, offer you a lot wider plank, and that is something that is very popular in design now, is a wider board. They also have a lot more surface finish techniques and custom colors and things that you see on factory finish floors, where a lot of your stuff that's done on site typically is very traditional looking. You know, there are a few guys, you know, that do some very boutique things on site now, but in general, you see more of that in a factory finish floor. You know, solid 3/4 inch wood flooring is what a lot of people are very familiar with. I mean, this is what's been used in homes for the last 150 years, since this is a floor that can be refinished multiple times throughout the life of the home. The only downside, you know, to the solid wood floor is that they will contract and expand relative to the environment they're put in. A solid wood floor, if you put it in a house that's got a lot of moisture, it's gonna swell. If you have put it in a house that's very dry, it's gonna shrink, and you're gonna see that movement. Where an engineered wood floor, since it's built and designed to be dimensionally stable, they still shrink and expand, but it's probably 10 times less. These, you know, you'll see very little movement with an engineered wood floor seasonally. And in East Tennessee here, we do have all 4 seasons. So we get a lot of movement in our floors in solid wood, especially the wider boards. You know, the wider you go in wood floors, the more they'll contract and expand. So, I mean, in your solid wood, a 5-inch wide board is about the widest you'll see in a pre-finished floor, where if you go to an engineered product, we've got stuff that's up to 10 inches wide. So, I mean, you can double the width of the floor and not have the issues with contraction, expanding, swelling, cupping, warping, twisting, all that kind of stuff. So it's getting very popular to go engineered. I mean, at one time, this market was probably 90% solid wood floors. I mean, when I first started selling up here in like 98, about all we sold was solid wood. And every year, engineered has gained and gained and gained to the point where we're probably selling more engineered wood floors now than solid wood. Engineered wood floors, of course, since they are built, you'll find a lot of different constructions in them. Like some of them are built very well and have a thick enough top veneer that you could refinish multiple times. And then they make them with thinner tops to meet different price points and different requirements. Like some people, when they buy a wood floor, they don't ever intend on refinishing it. So there's no need to have a really thick top on a floor that you never intend on refinishing. You know, and it helps keeps the cost down. Like the floor in my own home, I replaced 3 years ago. And I put an engineered wood floor in my own house because I wanted an 8-inch wide board. And I knew if I did that in a solid wood, it would be problematic because my house is on a crawl space, and crawl spaces fluctuate more than any type construction as far as the level of humidity in there. And mine actually stays probably overly damp in the late summer. And if I would have put a solid wood floor in there, it would have been a disaster. It would have failed. where the engineer floor has not moved a bit. All winter long, all summer long, it stays flat, true, doesn't do a thing. But I did go one with a little thinner top. I didn't go to the really thick one because I know that I'm never gonna refinish that floor. And bigger's not always better. There's a shoe for every foot. Most of the time when you're moving a wall, it's generally a pretty extensive remodel. And most of the time they're doing a lot of updates. The floor is probably a dated color and needs to be refinished anyway. So in that situation, more often than not, we would fill the hole or whatever was left from the wall and refinish the entire floor all at once. It's gonna look a lot better in the end, and it's gonna be hard to even see where the repair was if the floor is refinished and done in entirety. And that way, you know, it gives you a chance to update it, give you a more up-to-date color and brand new finish since you're doing this remodel. You know, you want it to last a long time, and now it's time to do it. And since you have the material already there in the house for the majority of it, it's probably the least expensive way to redo your floor covering is just to refinish it, the existing one in there, you know. Dishwashers, ice makers are common, you know, places we have leaks, and the floor, when it gets wet, it'll buckle. I mean, if you catch it in time, sometimes you can just dry it back out and it'll lay back down on its own. But more often than not, there's probably some repairs that are gonna need to be made, especially if it warps the board. Wood's got a little elastomeric, it's got a little bit of memory, you know, it'll go back a little bit, but it doesn't like to lay all the way back down. So you're probably gonna have some repairs done. You got two options. It really depends on what type of floor it is. Like if it was a factory finished floor, they all have a little beveled edge on the side. So we generally just replace the planks with the same material. That's why we always like for people to keep an extra box in case you ever do have a damage. You've got the material there, you can pluck those boards out, pop them right back in, and you know, it's a pretty easy repair. If it's a site finished floor, you have to normally take it up to where a door breaks or something like that, so where you can stop and start the process. Since if you're gonna have to be sanding the floor, you can't just stop in the middle. I mean, it has to go to a door break or a threshold or something like that. Cost-wise, I mean, everything in the last 18 months has gone up 20–30%, unfortunately. So now what you're looking at, middle of the road floor is like $5–6 range probably. You can easily get up to $9 on some floors that are a little nicer. And there's definitely a few that are in the $12 range. We don't have a lot in the store that's over that. Common price, I think, is that $5–8 range. Seems to be a common cost on a wood floor. There's a lot that's sold a little less and a lot that's sold a little more, but most of the ones we're writing are in that range, you know, 5 to 9, just depending on if it's more median or more higher end. We've got a lot wider selection than most folks do, and everything in here, I've been real selective of what I choose to bring in. I try to bring in products that I've got confidence in. They typically aren't the cheapest, but with everything in life, you get what you pay for. And with wood floors, if you're buying something that's under $4 nowadays in a wood floor, it's probably questionable as far as how it's made or the lifetime durability. Hard to find a first quality floor anyway that's south of $4. I mean, it's tough, you know. What the box stores do is, on the hardwood thing, is you get a lot of boards that wouldn't necessarily meet the quality standards of the stuff that we sell day in, day out. You get a lot of seconds that's mixed in with first quality goods to keep their yield up, you know, and that's how they keep the price down with those big box stores. I know in the hardwood business, when you get in bed with one of those big box stores and you start buying a lot of their production, they get to the point where they want better deals. And the only way the manufacturer can give them a better deal is by changing something, and normally it means they're letting more get by. They're not defecting it as much, and they're not being as selective of the pieces, and they're throwing a lot of stuff in there that's kind of questionable, you know, and you get a lot of waste. You think you're saving a little money, but you're having to buy 20% more material to cover the same job because you had to cull through this stuff. And they don't know what they're selling. I mean, I've seen big box stores tell people that they can do things that they shouldn't. you know, just because they don't know. You know, they've got somebody in there that's just trying to be helpful, but doesn't really understand what they're selling. That's often what I find, is that they've got a vague idea of what they're doing, but that's about it. You don't find folks that have got 20, 30 years experience in there selling anything. On an installation company, I would say that I definitely want a written quote, something put down, and their appearances, how they carry themselves, and their vans. I mean, I swear to you, the guys that I see that do very neat, clean work, they're clean, their vans are clean. It's the complete deal. And the guys that drive the vans that are leaking oil all over your driveway and they haven't bathed in a few days, they don't care. They're just doing the motions, you know, they're just grinding it out. It's just another day. They don't really go out of their way, especially on the details. That's generally where you'll see the differences. A lot of installation is pretty basic, but the finishing details are what separates the guys that do quality work and the guys that are just out trying to generate a paycheck. The trim work, the details, making everything flush up and meet correctly in your doorways and not filling all the little nail holes, and just going the extra mile to make sure that it's done correctly. You know, they put enough nails in your floor. They use the right trowels for the glue. I mean, this is a long-term investment and you want it done right the first time. By the time you pay somebody to do it twice, you could afford it the good guy. That's generally what I see, is like the guys that go cheap, they regret it, and in a couple of years they end up redoing it, you know, and paying somebody what they should have the first time, and then they've paid to have it done twice. I see it all the time. I've got a referral list that I share with some folks. You know, the NWFA is the National Wood Flooring Association. Their site's got a lot of guys that are certified on there. It's a good resource too. They have a consumer site and a professional site. It's nwfa.org for just general information. You know, if you were wanting to look up some stuff like that for guys that have actually done some training and are certified. A lot of guys here though, they were raised in the trade. I see that a lot. Guys that have been doing it for 25 and 30 years, they've usually got it figured out. Is that saying that they know everything? No. They can still improve on what they do, but they're generally pretty efficient. They've done it for a long time.
All right, that's a wrap. Thanks for watching. If this was helpful to you, please obviously like and share this video content. Otherwise, if there's anything we can do to help, you know how to get a hold of us. Catch you on the next one.